Hi everyone, I am here with a true short story from our book, When God Winks at You, How God Speaks Directly to You Through the Power of Coincidence. This one is called The Clowns Weren't Home. Okay. It may seem odd, but when a circus performer talks about home, they are speaking about their apartment on the circus train where they live most of the year. The annual schedule is pretty much the same. Exhaustive rehearsals at winter quarters, followed by opening night in St. Petersburg, Florida in late December, building to the opening in New York City in March. Then it's on to the rails for the rest of the season. This is the story of the decisions made by 4 residents of the community we know as the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus. Tammy and Tommy Parrish, the famous clown couple whose colorfully painted faces were smiling from billboards and the sides of buses in every major city. Jim Rogona, a handsome ringmaster entering his 13th season, who was a child, had prophetically announced in his fantasy play the words, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the greatest show on earth." And David Kaiser, a gregarious natural organizer who was also commencing his 13th year of clowning. Each of these performers should have been at home on the evening of January 12, 1994, because they weren't, their lives were saved. Extraordinarily, God Winks intervened just in time. 2 weeks earlier, on the opening night of the circus, Tammy and Tommy Parrish became the parents of a new baby clown named Amelia. Whimsically, I've wondered if Amelia entered the world with bright red dots on her cheeks. Tammy Parrish was exhausted. Amelia was born by cesarean section, and though Tammy had not yet returned to the center ring, she was hard at work behind the scenes. On the night of January 12th, she longingly anticipated crawling into her bed and having a day off as the circus train was about to move on to Orlando. Tommy had decided to drive the family car to Orlando rather than have it sent. He urged Tammy to come with him. "Come on, you and Amelia can sleep in the car. We'll get a hotel and have the day to play." "Tommy, you know I always sleep better at home. Besides, the baby is still a light sleeper." "Come on, honey. I just want my girls to be with me." She relented. As a normal rule, Jim Rogona also arranged to have his car sent ahead as the circus moved from city to city. That allowed him to sleep in his apartment on the train, which he'd newly decorated, and still have transport when he arrived at his destination. But on January 12th, Jim wrestled with whether he should drive to Orlando. He had not booked a place to stay, and he too needed a good night's rest. In the end, because it was relatively short hop, I decided to drive to have a real day off in Orlando, he said. David Kaiser had no question about it, what he was doing on January 12th. Well in advance, he had spread the word to the other clowns that he was organizing a day of pure fun at Walt Disney World. In a scene mimicking the circus itself, he piled 10 clowns and himself into a 5-passenger minivan to make the 2-hour drive to Orlando. 2 additional clowns arranged to meet the group there. None of the 13 clowns would be at home that night. All 13 were gone. Nobody was at home in those train cars. The circus train pulled out of St. Petersburg in the early morning of January 13th, shortly before 9 a.m. A man stopped at the railroad crossing near Lakeland and watched as the colorful train passed. He noticed sparks flying from beneath one of the cars and instantly called 911 on his cell phone. The sparks were caused by a broken wheel directly under the clown car. At 40 miles an hour, the train rapidly approached a junction. All the cars on the front of the train glided over the junction, but when the broken wheel encountered the switch, the remaining 13 cars, all the ones that just happened to be empty, from the clown car to the caboose, violently careened from the track into a screech and ripped metal. They went in every direction, landing into broken toys. The train was strewn along the tracks, spilling into the backyard of a Lakeland home, which within minutes became an emergency medical center for the injured. Only later did people ponder the irony that the home was owned by the father-in-law of the Ringling Brothers' executive vice president, adding to a chain of Godwinks. Tammy and Tommy Parrish and Jim Rogona rushed to the scene. They learned that elephant trainer Ted Shavatsky and performer Celeste Conkling had lost their lives in the tragedy. As they surveyed the devastation, they could only marvel at the Godwinks that had caused so many to be saved. It's mind-boggling that so many people were away from home that night, and there were not more injuries, said Tammy. Our bedroom was demolished. Where the baby would have been was crushed. At first, I couldn't find my home, said Jim Rogona. Then I realized that the two outside walls of the train were pressed together, actually touching each other. They were my bed, where I would have been sleeping. They were crushed, but my bed was crushed between them. David Kaiser also let out a sigh, observing that his bedroom was directly above the broken wheel. Moreover, because most of the people on the train were still in bed at the time of the crash, injuries were minimized. Told that it was the worst circus disaster ever, the Circus Family did what families must do at times of crisis. They came before the Lord, pulled themselves together, mourned the loss of two of their own, and honored God for the blessing that so many were saved. When they opened in Orlando, delayed only one night, the Circus Family was lifted up by warm embrace of a supportive and exuberant audience. In subsequent years, Tammy, Tommy, Jim, and David have wondered if God underscored his presence in their lives by using the number 13 on January 13th as David and Jim entered their 13th year with the circus, and as 13 clowns took a trip to Walt Disney World, 13 cars tore from the track. This is for certain. They'll never let a January 13th pass without a special prayer of thanks to God for placing them where they were just in time. That reminds me of that story I told you guys about that church, remember? Where everybody just happened to be late that day. They were supposed to meet for choir practice at 7 o'clock that night, and everybody just happened to be late for one reason or another, and that church blew up. There's something wrong with the furnace and nobody knew it. And people thought somebody was in that church because everybody was supposed to meet there. But everybody was like, oh, you know, no, I didn't come because I was running late because of this or that or this or that, you know. Nobody was there. Everybody was late. Not one person was in that church. Nobody had made it yet. Everybody was safe. Just like that, pretty much. Pretty much. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed that story. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Let's bring those souls to Jesus, and I hope you guys have a great night's sleep. Good night, guys. God bless you.